Good afternoon. Welcome to the recorded version or the recorded session of our System Steering Committee. We thank you for taking a few minutes just to listen to this overview of our positive behavior intervention and supports framework that we have implemented this year in Camden County Schools. As is typical, your input is very valuable. We'd like to share what we've done and get feedback from you so that we can help develop our program, enhance our program, and make sure that we are supporting our students in the capacity that is the most appropriate to help them grow. As a reminder, here in Camden County Schools, we support the whole child, not just with academics, but social, emotionally, physically, psychologically, with academic needs, but also behaviorally. So today, we're going to discuss our behavioral framework and how we implement that in our schools and what it's yielded for us this year. So I'm going to take a few minutes and I'm going to share my screen with you. And we will review this PowerPoint and discuss what has happened here in Camden County Schools regarding PBIS. So if you hear the word PBIS, it's positive behavior, interventions, and supports. So what is PBIS? PBIS, it's a program that we have implemented here in Camden County Schools, and the aim of the program and the goal is to reduce discipline incidents or reduce office discipline referrals, sometimes referred to as ODRs. We want to increase schools' sense of safety. We want our students to feel safe when they come to school. We want them to feel secure when they're in our buildings or around our buildings or at school-related activities. And we want to improve academic outcomes. If teachers can't teach due to behavior infractions in the classroom, then that's going to impact not only the child who's off task, but all of the students in the class. So if we can teach them how to behave, teach them what we expect them to do in an orderly and decent manner in our school and in school functions, then the teachers will be able to teach. So that is the aim of PBIS. Just a little journey and a little history of how we've gotten here in Camden County as it relates to PBIS. In May of 2015, approximately 6 years ago, Camden County Schools was trained by the Georgia Department of Education. All 11 of our schools, at that time, the high school did not get trained. They joined us 2 years later. But 11 of our schools, middle and elementary schools, we all embarked on the training together as a group in a large setting. We were at the church and we met as a PBIS team in each school. And the Georgia Department of Education program specialists for PBIS, they came and guided us through the 2-day training. And that is a tier 1 training. So we'll refer to that a little later in the presentation. There has been a reduction in our major discipline infractions. Our major discipline infractions typically end up with students being assigned to the Ombudsman Alternative School. And since 2016, when we started implementing PBIS, we have noticed to date that there has been a reduction in the number of students being assigned at the alternative school. Data-informed decisions are being made to develop opportunities for student success. We use data to not drive what we're doing, but inform us of what we're doing, not only in our academics, but also with our behaviors. What is the data telling us that we need to do as adults to help support our students, to help them understand the expectations, to help them learn appropriate behaviors? So we have been very data informed here in Camden County Schools since 2015 regarding our behaviors. And not only has the data helped us with the students' outcomes, but it's also helped us understand and ensure educators are implementing PBIS with fidelity. Not only are we expecting them to participate in the trainings, but we want to make sure that they understand how to implement the program and the framework with fidelity. So all students develop and all students learn and they enhance social, emotional, and behavioral competencies so that they can learn, so that they can achieve, so that they can be successful on the challenging state standards and the challenging state assessment. So once we have taught them these behaviors, we feel like they can be more successful academically. All of our educators, they develop a positive and predictable and safe environment within their classroom and within the school building that promotes a strong interpersonal relationship between them and the students. And they teach them, they model the appropriate behaviors for them, and they encourage them when the behaviors are exemplified or demonstrated, shall I say. So these are the components of PBIS that we are implementing in our schools. So all students enhance their social, emotional, and behavioral components by reciting the expectations every day. This is what happens in the schools. They are experiencing regular recognition by the administrators, by cafeteria workers, by adults in the building, because PBIS is not only implemented by the teachers, but we have PBIS on the bus, in the cafeteria, the custodial staff assists. So they experience being recognized. They display their expected behaviors, not only in the classroom, so that they can have academic engagement or academic success, but they demonstrate it on the playground. They demonstrate it on the bus port. They are recognized by adults and their peers for acknowledging and demonstrating and exhibiting the expectations. And we use common language to communicate what's expected in all settings of our schools. So we collaborate in our planning meetings. We collaborate when we're talking to students about their writing and connect it with their expectations, when they're out playing, when they're problem solving or having conflict resolution with their peers. We use the PBIS expectations to lead that discussion, and it's a common language. Now, each school has different expectations. It's unique to their school. So they understand what the adults in their school want them to know and be able to do as it relates to behaviors. Educators develop positive, predictable, and safe environments. We've already mentioned that. And they do that by prompting, modeling, and teaching. So they are showing the students what they expect. So if we're expecting students to walk safely in the hall, we have adults walking safely. If we're expecting students to speak with respect or to speak with responsibility and have responsible actions, then the teachers are also demonstrating that. They're actively supervising the students. They're maximizing all their academic opportunities by enhancing social, emotional, and behavioral components. And they're intensifying their PBIS supports in a responsive manner that's universal in all practices throughout the building. So as with our academics and even with our financial responsibilities and with how we operate within the building as far as facilities or as far as the air condition or safety, we have action plans. So all aspects of our operation in Camden County Schools, we have action plans to identify what our critical issues are, what steps we're going to take to mitigate those critical issues and improve them and have positive solutions, and then how we're going to evaluate how effective and the efficacy of those strategies. So with behaviors, we also have action plans. So we have a PBIS district action plan. And our objective for the action plan is to reduce the number of office referrals, which are also called ODRs, by 3%, from 11,630, which is what we had in FY19, school year 19. We want to reduce that to 10,467 in this school year, which just ended on last Friday. So we wanted a 3% reduction. The activities or action steps that we were going to put in place, that we did put in place, and we are now evaluating to see how effective they were, was to provide professional development on discipline infraction definitions for all staff. Last year, when we conducted a comprehensive needs assessment, we identified that not all staff members understand the definition of student infractions. Someone might call a certain off-task behavior an assault, whereas someone else might call it battery. So we needed to have consistency within the definition, and that required us building capacity with our staff. Provide professional development on the PBIS flowchart. The flowchart is the model that we use that helps teachers understand, when do we write a referral? When do we conduct any type of support within our classroom without using a referral? When might we just pass the student next door to our partner or our neighbor, just for some time to cool off and to check in and think about what they did wrong and how to meet the expectation and do right. So the flow chart was an area that we needed to ensure our faculty members or our staff members understood. And we needed to provide professional development for Tier 2 implementation. Tier 2 is the level of support that we provide for a more specialized group of students. Those students who we find are not being successful with the strategies or the activities we expect all students to do. These students might need more frequent support. They might need longer support. Their support might have more duration, and there might be less time in between recognizing their positive behaviors where another child may not need that. That's considered Tier 2. Last March, we participated in Tier 2 training, and then COVID happened. We had 1 day of training, and then we had to cancel the training because we started discussing our school closures. So this year, we wanted to implement Tier 2 training, but that did not quite come to fruition because of the uniqueness of the year and trying to get back on our feet after the school closures. So let's just take a review of our data. We say in the PBIS world, if there is no data, there is no meeting. So all of our meetings, whether it is a PBIS meeting on site with the school level or with the PBIS district coaches and myself, there's always data to review. So this chart just gives us some trend data on our ODRs, which are office discipline referrals. So you will see on the left-hand column a list of all of our schools and a total for the system. FY19, that column reflects the number of office discipline referrals per school. And that's where we received the number, or we found and discovered the number of 11,630 for FY19. In FY20, you'll notice the asterisk, and that is because we did close school on March 16th. So we did not have a complete year. But FY21, we did have a complete year, but the caveat there was that we had virtual learners. So we are not really comparing apples and oranges at this time, and we understand that. But we did implement the PBIS framework with fidelity. We implemented it with the students we had in school. We did not abandon any of the best practices because we didn't have all of our students on site. We completed the tasks, the expectations, the guidelines, and the fidelity checks that we needed to with the students that we had. So I'm pleased to say that we did have a reduction of 3,865 office discipline referrals looking at our trend data for FY19. So the action steps that we discussed reveals that we did meet our objectives. And we had, instead of a 3% reduction, we had a 33% reduction in our discipline referrals. What are some possible reasons? And this is where we'd like some feedback from you. At the end, you'll find there's going to be a link to a Google Sheet that's going to ask you some questions that can help guide our discussion that we would typically have in person, and you would provide some feedback that'll help us as we develop our plans for FY22. So looking and referring back to the data that we just reviewed, what are some possible reasons for the ODR reductions? Is it because teachers have effectively taught the PBIS lessons in the classroom and taught the students how to behave and taught them the expectations? Is it because we had less students in the building? Is it because teachers had more time to address behaviors in class due to reduced class size? meaning more students stayed home because of virtual learning. Virtual students were the students representing the greatest number of ODRs in the previous years. Is it that our students who weren't with us, the 15% of the students that stayed home, were they the ones that made up the difference with those 3,000 plus referrals? Is that possible? Teachers had a greater understanding of how to implement the PBIS framework with fidelity. Maybe this year's professional development was rich enough that the teachers really understood even more this year on how they were expected to implement the program with fidelity. And if you could share some other possible reasons why that we may not have thought of on that Google sheet at the end, that would be helpful to us. What other possibilities could lie for the reason of the reduction? So interpreting staff's perception, we don't only look at the data, but we also look at the perception of our staff members who are implementing PBIS. And one tool that we use is called the SAS, the Self-Assessment Survey. And this survey examines the status and the need to improve in 4 behavior support systems. Basically, what this is saying, in 4 areas that we support our students, this particular tool, after we answer the questions, it reveals to us what all the staff members feel are the areas that we are strong, areas that are weakest, and where we need to grow. So school-wide discipline. How are we implementing PBIS school-wide? That's in every setting. Non-classroom management of PBIS. That would be in the cafeteria, the hallways, at the playground, at the bus port. How are we implementing PBIS in those areas? Classroom management systems. In the classroom, how are we implementing PBIS? And systems for individual students engaging in chronic problem behaviors. Remember, that's that tier 2 child or the tier 3 child who needs more support because what we're doing for the typical student is not effective enough to help them be successful. So how are we working within that realm? And those are the 4 areas or the 4 domains that teachers answer questions for regarding behaviors. That data helps us develop our action plans and helps us determine what action steps we need to put in place to implement PBIS with fidelity. All staff members that are trained in PBIS, they all complete that particular survey instrument. We also have another survey instrument called the TFI, which is the Tiered Fidelity Inventory. And the purpose of that school-wide instrument is to provide any valid, reliable, or efficient feedback on the extent to which we as a school are implementing the core expectations of PBIS. And only the PBIS team answers those questions. So there are 2 surveys that we complete in the fall and in the spring. We complete them twice to see how we are growing and progressing from baseline to the end of the year. And that's some other data we look at and review. And yet another piece of data or data source was conducted by the Okefenokee-Risa PBIS Leadership Team and the Georgia Department of Education Leadership Team. They sent our coaches who led a discussion with their PBIS team and teachers in their schools to identify what types of training do we want next year? What do we feel that we need some assistance in growing and building our capacity? And these were the areas identified by the PBIS coaches as areas that they would like those RISA team members and the Georgia Department of Education team members to come in and lead us through these discussions of these 5 topics. So all that information together helps us develop our FY22 PBIS action plan so that we are informed of what's really going on in our buildings, what's going on in our school system, and we are provided the opportunity to grow so we can help our students with their behaviors. So what are our next steps? Our next steps is to create the FY22 PBIS action plan. Also, to train new PBIS coaches. We will have new coaches next year that will need to be trained and not understand all of the aspects. Some of them may be coming to us new from other school systems who have implemented PBIS, but some of them, it'll be new and they'll just be ambitious and innovative in their own way, but they need to understand the framework. So we will need to train our new PBIS coaches, and we will collaborate with our RESA and our State Department to schedule trainings and ensure that we have everything we need to support our staff as they need to be supported as they learn the framework and implement it. Another topic that we broached this year was changing the name PBIS. We've been doing it for 6 years, and this is not atypical to the state of Georgia. Many other districts and RESAs have completed this particular initiative of changing PBIS to another name. So we toyed with changing PBIS, the term PBIS, not the framework, not the components, not the guidelines, but just the term PBIS, just freshen things up a bit and call it the Camden way. We have a way in Camden County that we implement our business. We implement business with integrity. We implement business with an expectation that our stakeholders have, a high expectation that our stakeholders have to represent them, represent their students, and we as professionals in our educational field. And that is just the Camden way. That's just the way we do business. So we will next year change the term PBIS to the Camden way, just the way we conduct business. So having said that, we're going to look at some silver linings that our schools have explored this year or discovered this year and have shared this year, that even in the midst of a pandemic, they have found some positives. And I'll give you a few minutes to just read through those and just see what our schools have, found to be the positive lining, the silver lining in such a grim time in our world. We found a way to find the light at the end of the tunnel. And here are some silver linings from our schools. These are the principals that represent our school. And you'll see that we have our 9 elementary schools listed, and the middle schools. We have 2 middle schools and 1 high school. And these are them. We had an opportunity to celebrate our successes here, and we are PBIS strong, and we are also Camden strong. This recognition came from our Okefenokee RISA. They gave us these signs, so we celebrated all that we have done to support our students. And here is an opportunity for your input. So you'll see that there are 4 questions. And Mr. Blunt, Mr. Hampton Blunt and Mr. Brent Blunt will send you a link via email, and you'll see the survey link on the bottom. If you click on that survey link, there are these 4 questions. If you can please just provide a sentence or 2. We're not asking for a dissertation, nothing long. We value your input. And if you could take a few minutes just to share with us, how does the virtual learning model impact the reduction in office discipline referrals? How do you think that may have impacted having 15% of our students at home? How do you think student academic performance is affected by behaviors by academic performance? In what ways can Camden County Schools inform parents and community members about students' academic, social, emotional, and discipline data? How can we let you know? How can we communicate it with you? What suggestions do you have? And are you in agreement with the name change from PBIS to the Camden Way? Just expressing how we do business in Camden, that we have expectations, we have high morals, we have high standards, and that's just the Camden way. So if you find that you don't have access to the link, please feel free to email me, and my email address is listed there, and feel free to give us any information that you can, that you feel that we need to know to make us better, to serve your children, to serve the children of Camden County Schools, which ultimately will serve others. So we thank you for your time, and we look forward to hearing from you. Have a wonderful, safe, enjoyable summer.